Well, with only 6 weeks left until the Leaving and Junior Cert exams start, there's no denying that exam season can be a stressful time for children and their parents. Joining me now with his advice on how to survive the state exams and best prepare is motivational speaker and teacher Enda O Doherty from Study Skills Ireland. And I have to say, I still get flashbacks to the Leaving Cert, as many of our viewers will. But I am my age, so I'm, 38, and I'm saying, but I'm working on Ireland. And they're like, no, you have to come for your Irish oral. There was a problem with your first result and you need to come back. So, I mean, it's still there. It's an indelible mark in our consciousness, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't leave you. It doesn't matter whether I speak to someone who's 90 or someone who's 19 and they've just finished or it's been years ago. They really, really have bad flashbacks, you know. It's...
And are students more stressed now than they used to be, do you think?
I think what we've done is we've sort of, like a lot of things in life, we've hyped it up, we've focused more on it, and we've put the students under more and more pressure. We expect higher standards, and we sort of built the Leaving Cert up to be the be-all and end-all. But, you know, I was talking to your lovely weatherman outside, and we were talking about running and marathons, and the analogy I often use for students and reminding them to stay calm is this, that if you were on the start line of a marathon and you saw somebody jumping up and down and they were drenched in perspiration and they were high-fiving everyone, you'd probably go over and say, listen, calm down, you've 26 miles to go, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you're doing your Leaving Cert in 8 weeks' time or whatever it is away from us now, this time next year, you're going to be doing first-year college exams. For the next 4 years, you're going to do college exams. In Ireland, you nearly certainly are going to do some form of postgraduate qualification. And the very first day, 6 years later, you arrive in work, your boss is going to say, you know, Karen, if you want to get ahead in here, you need to do some exams. So the thing is, stay calm, focus on what you're doing, continue to work, but remember, it's just the first step on the road.
OK, so this is just the first mile of the marathon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in terms of study tips and being practical, what's our first tip then when it comes to our goals?
Well, I think when we've got very little time left, I think, you know, if you can... Your handbag, I'm sure, is outside of the studio somewhere. Do you know roughly how much money you've got in your handbag right now?
Very little.
OK, but you'd be able to be within €4 or €5 of what you have?
Yeah, I would hope so,
okay.
Yeah.
So most people have a concept of money, what we've got in our wallet, what we've got in our bag. I think what I find with a lot of students is they don't apply the same concept to time. So if you ask someone in 5th year when they're doing the Leaving Cert, they'll say it's 2 years' time.
Yes.
But it's actually 167 school days in 5th year and 167 school days in 6th year, divided by 9 subjects. You know, so given that we've very little time left, it's really important that, OK, you work hard, but you work smart. So you're going to go after the things that need fixing. So, for example, if you had something in the mocks that went terribly wrong, so say, for example, you didn't know glaciation or you didn't know your dictators or whatever the topic was, to go back and be sure to fix those, because as much as they hurt in the mocks when they came up and you were disappointed that you didn't know them, if the same thing appears in June, you're going to be really, really disappointed that you got caught out twice. So I think be focused on the time. At this time of year, I see people, you know, who are dashing into coffee drinks and energy drinks and, you know, I'm going to do 15 hours of study. And what I say to people is, you know, you're far better off set smaller goals, be focused on achieving and be focused on success. So if you say today, get up and say, right, and I'm sure there's someone watching this right now having their breakfast, going out to study. If you say, I'm going to do 20 chapters of the geography book today, reality is if you got 10 done, it'd be exceptional. Yeah. If you got 4 done that you really knew well and practiced questions on, that would be much, much better. So sometimes students set huge goals to themselves, huge target, and then feel by 5 o'clock this evening frustrated, I only got 14 done and there's 20 to do, you know. So I would say, you know, be kinder and be smarter.
Yeah, OK, excellent. In terms of having an exam plan then, what's your advice there? Yeah,
well, I think probably the biggest mistake I see students making with state exams is going into the exam, starting and continuing to write until the examiner says time up, right? So really what we want...
I remember always being told that, just keep writing.
Well, it's a good tactic, keep writing, but a better tactic would be if you know, for example, an 80-mark question is 30 minutes writing and you need to check if you're halfway through that question on 15 minutes and at 30 minutes be disciplined enough to stop and move on to the next one. Okay. Your productivity, your success in the exam will be far, far higher than just writing. I think sometimes what people do is comfort writing. So you see something like you see an essay, write about the rise of Adolf Hitler, and you go, oh, God, I know that really well. And 2 hours later, you're still writing.
Yeah.
And it's a question that's worth 10% of the marks. So a simple thing, if you're starting out to study today, could be, what questions am I doing? Which order? How much time? And have that plan in your head going into the exam. So regardless of any further study, you're already going to be far more successful in the technique of doing the exam.
OK. Is it time for procrastination as well? I even know if I have to do notes for the night before here, I'm putting it off, I'm kind of emptying the dishwasher, you know, to stop doing that. So how do we avoid that?
Well, I think it's a habit, and like all habits, you get good at it if you practice it. So if you practice putting things off repeatedly, that's what you get good at. So what I always encourage people is to go with Nike rather than procrastination. So Nike is, when you hear that voice saying, oh, Karen, read those notes tomorrow, or you'll get that in the morning, do it now. Do it right now, this second. Stand up, walk away and do it. And if you practice that often enough, you become really good at it. You know, it's like, I saw a student in my own school where I'm working recently studying, and I said to him, how are you getting on? He said, it's really boring. And I said, which bit? He said, the study bit. And I said, well, I've been watching. I said, you're staring, you're not studying. So he said, what do you mean? I said, well, look, you need to mix up the content. So study history, then switch to chemistry, then switch to maths, then switch to Irish. You need to vary the time. So go from 10 minutes to 5 minutes up to 25 minutes. Keep the variety there. You need to mix the technique. So if you're writing a summary for history, never write a summary for geography. You know, use audio, maybe use video, maybe use highlighting. But the more variety that you can have in the study, the better your concentration and the better your level of retention, you know. It's a bit like, you know, if most students I talk to have a mommy dinner, you know, when you've had a bad day in school and you come home and mommy cooks spaghetti bolognese and she goes, you poor thing, and she gives you spaghetti bolognese. Everybody knows that makes you feel good and you enjoy it. Now, if mommy repeatedly gave you spaghetti bolognese for 8 or 9 or 10 consecutive days, you'd probably run away. You don't want to eat the spaghetti bolognese. So our brain is the same. From a study point of view, we need variety. We need to keep our brain engaged, we need to keep our brains energetic. And if we vary those times, vary the methodologies, and vary the subjects, well, then our concentration goes up and we're not giving our brain spaghetti bolognese.
That's a great tactic. In terms of parents, what can we do to make this time as stressless as possible?
Well, that's impossible because it's really stressful. You love your little chicken, you've put your whole life into them, you've made them, and here they are doing this state exam, and you would do anything for them. You've probably stepped into every single crisis they've had in their life, and this one, they have to stand alone. So for a parent, like I remember telling someone, I was teaching 30 years and I thought I understood the Leaving Cert until it was in my own kitchen. And then it was a different monster. So I think for parents, look, you really have to be calm, and particularly calm in the presence of your children. If you're stressed and if you're worried and if you're anxious, please don't transfer it to your kids, because...
Well, that's it. Anxiety is infectious, isn't it?
So we can do, as parents, we can do the small things. We can make sure we're extra early for the pickups. We can have those nice treats for food. We can ensure that, you know, chores maybe are put to one side. And we can reassure our kids. You know, when you think about it, they've been in education probably since they're 4. If they're in Leaving Certificate year and they've done 2 years of Leaving Cert, they have 2,000 hours of tuition. And even if you did no study, you would have heard a lot of information. You would be amazed at how much you know. So remind them that they're clever, remind them that they're good, and remind them that the Leaving Cert is just step 1.
And make sure then they're getting their sleep, they're not dependent on energy drinks, those kind of practical things too.
Well, if you eat rubbish food, you're going to feel rubbish, you know. And if you eat lots of carbohydrates, sugars and caffeines to boost yourself coming up to an exam, the likelihood is then you'll have a huge slump in energy afterwards. So keep the diet as good as you can coming up to exams. Keep the exercise going. You know, the more energy you burn, the more energy you create. So get that sleep pattern and keep that sleep pattern for the exams. Don't be tempted to cram and stay up late learning things. What happens is you get more tired, more fatigued, and the next day the stuff you did know is probably evaporated because of exhaustion. So, you know, be kind to yourself is a good tip.
On that note, I think that's the best note we could have ended on. Enda, thank you very much. Massive good luck to all the Junior Cert and Leaving Cert students as well, studying over Easter, especially my niece, Aoife McGuire. Hope you're watching. OK, coming up after 8, we're going to be meeting the brave teenager who used her karate skills to fend off a would-be kidnapper who tried to attack her in broad daylight. Kate Mulhern will be sharing her story with us at 8:15. All that and lots more still to come. Stay with us.